Big news, Liverpool fans. Massive decisions made ahead of Fulham clash, including a huge call on Salah. Is this the turning point for Liverpool or more trouble for Arne Slot? Stay with us for all the latest updates, breaking news and in-depth analysis. And don't forget to hit subscribe and join the Anfield Wire family for daily Liverpool content. Liverpool team versus Fulham predicted as Mohamed Salah and Rio Ngumoha. Decisions made. Liverpool faces Fulham on Saturday as it returns to Premier League action, with Arne Slot facing a number of dilemmas as he picks from his misfiring group of players. It feels like it's make or break for Liverpool at this stage now as it returns to Premier League action against Fulham on Saturday. With any hope of some silverware fading fast after defeat to Paris Saint-Germain in the first leg of the Champions League quarter-final this week, all eyes will now be trained on securing a top 5 finish and making sure the Reds are at Europe's top table again next season. Arne Slot's side has been boosted in that regard, given a top 4 finish is increasingly looking out of their grasp, although with the way things are going at the moment, even 5th is going to be a big ask. Any fan who has watched Liverpool of late will likely be worried about where the next win is going to come from, with performances threatening to spiral out of control. The Reds were lucky not to receive another thrashing in Paris in midweek, and Slot faces a difficult balancing act now ahead of the second leg at Anfield on Tuesday. And although supporters aren't best pleased with the head coach right now, you certainly wouldn't want to swap places with him at the moment. Where on earth do you begin with this team? Getting any sort of tune out of this group of players looks an almost impossible task now. But if they're going to turn up, it has to be when a place in next season's Champions League is on the line. There is at least one easy decision to make. Georgi Mamardashvili will continue in goal, with Alisson Becker still recovering from a hamstring problem. Now to the hard part. First of all, let's ditch the 5 at the back system, and honestly, let's hope it doesn't make a return anytime soon. Ibrahima Konate and Virgil van Dijk can take their usual spots at the heart of the defence. Having announced his impending departure this week, let's give Andy Robertson a run out at left back. Right back is a real conundrum. Joe Gomez doesn't really feel like the answer, and Jeremy Frimpong feels like a risk given his injury problems this season. As loath as I am to do this, I think Dominic Szoboszlai will have to fill in there once again. Ryan Gravenberch can continue in midfield, and Curtis Jones can get a rare opportunity to start alongside him. Florian Wirtz can operate as the no.10 comma, but the German needs to start producing more. Having been left on the bench in Paris, Mohamed Salah can return to the lineup today and hopefully just to inject some joy into this team. Rio Ngumoha will be on the opposite flank. Up front, Hugo Ekitike starts once again. Honestly, it feels like the Frenchman needs a rest, but Alexander Isak won't be ready to start yet, and Cody Gakpo just looks shot of confidence. Assuming Isak's minutes are going to increase, then perhaps Ekitike will just be needed for around an hour, which might save his legs somewhat for the second leg against PSG. Liverpool predicted team versus Fulham: Mamardashvili, Szoboszlai, Konate, Van Dijk, Robertson, Gravenberch, Jones, Salah, Wirtz, Ngumoha, Ekitike. Liverpool accidentally sold player to Fulham after manager got confused. Liverpool accidentally sold a player to Fulham in 2010 after a case of mistaken identity, with manager Roy Hodgson confusing Alexander Kotiniklik for another academy player in the Paul Konchesky deal. Liverpool once mistakenly offloaded a player to Fulham this Saturday's opposition due to a case of mistaken identity. The peculiar episode occurred in 2010 during Roy Hodgson's troubled tenure at Anfield. Hodgson, who turned 79 in August, is back in the news at the moment after returning to soccer management with Bristol City. After moving to the Reds from Fulham in 2010, Hodgson was keen to bring Paul Konchesky with him to Merseyside. The two clubs ultimately struck an agreement, with Liverpool paying a transfer fee and sending 2 promising academy prospects, Laurie Dalavali and Alexander Kokaniklic. However, according to Kokaniklic, he wasn't meant to be part of the transaction, with Liverpool accidentally negotiating for the wrong player. Before I signed, I had a conversation with Roy Hodgson on the phone where we found out that he had chosen the wrong Alex, the Swede revealed in 2019. In his head, he thought he had sold another Alex for Konchesky, but then it was too late. Upon realising the blunder, Hodgson attempted to reverse the deal, but without success. Hodgson just told me I was welcome back in Liverpool with open arms, Kokaniklic recalled, but by then I had already made my mind up and was very excited about coming to Fulham. Hodgson succeeded Rafa Benitez at the club shortly after steering Fulham to the Europa League final, where the London club fell to Atletico Madrid. He ultimately secured just 7 victories from his 20 matches in charge before departing the club by mutual consent in January 2011. When Roy Hodgson came to the club, it was a little different, a big change, Kasaniklic observed. Benitez had been there before and made the club his own with everyone who worked at the club. When he left and took all his people with him, it became a bit turbulent. Hodgson didn't look so much at us youngsters, he wanted quick results. Kasaniklic arrived at Liverpool aged 16 in 2007, spending 3 years developing through the academy system before departing for Fulham. At Craven Cottage, he racked up 100 appearances during a 6-year period, subsequently moving to French side Nantes in 2016. The winger also represented Sweden on 21 occasions before hanging up his boots in 2025. Hodgson, for his part, bounced back from his underwhelming Liverpool tenure with a successful period at West Bromwich Albion, earning him the England manager's position in 2012. His 4-year reign encompassed 3 major international competitions, yet his team never progressed beyond a knockout round, making the quarter-finals at Euro 2012, crashing out during the group phase at the 2014 World Cup and suffering an unexpected last 16 elimination against Iceland at Euro 2016. The 78-year-old will undoubtedly be watching with interest this Saturday as his 2 former clubs face off. Liverpool enters the fixture looking to narrow the deficit to Aston Villa, who began the weekend holding a 5-point advantage over them in 4th place. Arne Slot's players have been enduring a difficult spell lately, having lost 3 consecutive matches to Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City and Brighton. They have also managed just 2 victories in their last 8 fixtures across all competitions. Fulham, by contrast, trails Liverpool by 5 points in the table and is in strong form. Marco Silva's players are mounting a late charge for European qualification, having secured 3 wins from their last 5 league outings. Full Premier League injury report as Liverpool and 19 other teams face problems. Complete Premier League injury updates for all 20 teams, including Liverpool's Alisson absence, Arsenal's defensive concerns and Manchester United's suspension issues ahead of crucial fixtures. The Premier League returns this weekend after an extended hiatus, with Arsenal aiming to strengthen its position at the summit. It's been a 3-week gap since the previous round of fixtures, with the international break followed by FA Cup action, providing teams an opportunity to regroup. Roberto De Zerbi is set to oversee his maiden Tottenham match this weekend, while Arsenal welcomes Bournemouth in Saturday's early encounter. Proceedings kicked off with a survival battle between West Ham and Wolves on Friday, which the Hammers won, while Chelsea's meeting with Manchester City stands out as another fixture of note on Sunday. Here, Liverpool.com guides you through the squad updates for all 20 Premier League clubs, spotlighting the crucial injury concerns that may influence proceedings. Bournemouth. The Cherries travel to league-topping Arsenal on Saturday and will be minus Lewis Cook and Justin Kluivert, though they've been handed a lift with Ben Gannon-Doak, Tyler Adams, Junior Krupi and Alex Jimenez all back to full fitness. Arsenal Mikel Arteta played things tight in his pre-match briefing, though he did confirm Eberechi Eze's comeback from a calf problem. Jurrien Timber, Bukayo Saka, Ricardo Calafiori, Piero Hincapié and Martin Odegaard were all missing from Thursday's training ground activities, with Arteta offering only, there have been changes there since yesterday. Mikel Merino continues as a long-term casualty. Aston Villa travels to Nottingham Forest and will probably be without Jadon Sancho, who is 2 weeks into a 3-week rehabilitation period following a shoulder injury. Boubacar Kamara is sidelined for the remainder of the campaign, though Alisson has returned to training with the squad. Brentford, Rico Henry and Vitaly Janelt are both ruled out for the fixture against Everton, while Aaron Hickey is also a significant doubt. Joshua Da Silva, Anthony Milambo and Fabio Carvalho are long-term absentees for the Bees. Brighton skipper Lewis Dunk is suspended after accumulating 10 yellow cards, though Jack Hinchelwood has recovered from the problem that forced him to pull out of England U21 duty. Adam Webster and Stefanos Tsimas remain on the sidelines for the foreseeable future. Burnley, numerous concerns for Scott Parker ahead of their match against Brighton. Jordan Bayer, Josh Laurent, Mike Tressor, Hannibal Mejbri, Connor Roberts, Zeki Amdouni and Josh Cullen have all been ruled out. Axel Tuanzebe will undergo a late fitness assessment after being away on international duty with DR Congo, celebrating the country's World Cup qualification. Chelsea, Liam Rosenior confirmed in his pre-match press conference that Enzo Fernandez won't play as a punishment for his comments during the international break. Reece James is battling to regain fitness but won't feature against Manchester City. Levi Colwill, Jamie Gittins, Trevoh Chalobah, Philip Jorgensen and Mykhailo Mudryk are all ruled out. Crystal Palace Evan Gesund is a concern after sustaining a knock in Palace's previous fixture. Cheikh Doucouré is unavailable this weekend and Eddie Nketiah has been sidelined for the remainder of the campaign. Everton Jack Grealish remains absent following surgery, while Carlos Alcaraz isn't prepared to feature. Iliman Ndiaye has been cleared for selection by David Moyes. Fulham, Kenny Tete, Harrison Reed and Kevin are all unavailable for Fulham's journey to Anfield on Saturday. Leeds, Anton Stach, Joe Rodon and Dan James have all been ruled out of Monday's fixture against Manchester United by Daniel Farke, while Noah Okafor, Jakob Biol and Gabriel Goodmanson are doubts owing to knocks. Liverpool, Alisson is not prepared to return between the posts, meaning Georgi Mamardashvili will continue in his place. Giovanni Leone, Wataru Endo and Conor Bradley are the only other absent players, with Alexander Isak now back to fitness and having come off the bench in the 2-0 loss to Paris Saint-Germain on Wednesday. Manchester City, Pep Guardiola reports that both Josko Gvardiol and Ruben Dias are making encouraging progress on their comebacks from injury but aren't ready yet. Nevertheless, John Stones is nearer and has returned to partial training. Manchester United, Harry Maguire is suspended following his dismissal in the 2-2 draw at Bournemouth. Patrick Dorgu has returned to individual training but isn't ready to face Leeds. Matthijs de Ligt remains absent. United has spent this week in Ireland on a 4-day training camp with Lisandro Martinez, Benjamin Sesko and Brian Mbeumo all in attendance. Newcastle Bruno Guimaraes is under the weather and will miss the weekend trip to Crystal Palace. He is joined on the injury list by defenders Sven Botman, Fabian Schär and Emil Kraft. However, Lewis Miley has returned to training and will be in the frame for selection. Nottingham Forest will be without Jaya Cunha, Willy Bowley, Nicolo Savona and John Victor for its clash with Villa on Sunday. Sunderland, Jocelyn Tabi, Romain Mundle, Bertrand Traoré and Simon Moore are all ruled out for the Black Cats fixture against Tottenham on Sunday, while Dan Ballard and Nilson Angulo are not quite ready to feature. First choice goalkeeper Robin Roufs could make a welcome return after a spell on the sidelines. Tottenham goalkeeper Guglielmo Vicario remains unavailable following his hernia surgery, meaning Antonin Kinski will make his first start since being substituted by Igor Tudor in the match against Atletico Madrid. Mathis Tel is considered a doubt. Mohamed Kudus has suffered a setback in his recovery and is ruled out alongside Yves Bissouma, Ben Davies, Rodrigo Bentancur, Dejan Kulusevski, James Maddison and Wilson Odobert. West Ham, Jean-Claire Todibo and Callum Wilson were named among the substitutes on Friday following injury concerns. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was also on the bench, having returned late from international duty, while Crescencio Somerville recovered sufficiently to earn a starting berth. Wolves' Matt Doherty was ruled out of the clash against West Ham through a knock, with Sam Johnstone also sidelined due to a shoulder injury. Liverpool star invisible thanks to Arne Slot tactics as scathing verdict reached. Arne Slot is coming under attack back in his homeland as the Liverpool boss comes under increasing pressure. With one pundit not impressed with his tactics against PSG, Arne Slot is coming under considerable pressure back in his homeland, with one Dutch pundit suggesting the Liverpool boss is slowly losing control of his side. The heat is rising on Slot as the Reds' poor form continues after the international break, having been thrashed by Manchester City in the FA Cup last weekend. Liverpool is now on the verge of going out of the Champions League after falling to a 2-0 defeat in the first leg of its quarter-final against Paris Saint-Germain. It could have been much worse for the Reds, with the defending European champions having spurned opportunities to increase their advantage ahead of visiting Anfield next week. The performance and result in the French capital have done nothing to ease the pressure on Slot. Liverpool fans increasingly look to be losing patience with the 47-year-old, with Xabi Alonso's name having been sung as a large section left last weekend's defeat at City early. And it's not just on Merseyside where Slot is coming under a lot of scrutiny, with the opinion back home in the Netherlands starting to turn as well. Writing for De Telegraaf, former Dutch international Wim Kieft was not at all impressed with Slot's tactics against PSG and his use of one of his fellow countrymen in particular. Arne Slot gives the idea that he is slowly losing control at Liverpool, Keith said. As you often see with trainers under pressure, he went against Paris Saint-Germain to play very differently. He completely adapted his tactics and chose some other players. For example, Cody Gakpo and Mohamed Salah started on the bench and the latter was replaced by Jeremy Frimpong. Before half-time, the Dutch international had some nice moments, but in the second half he was invisible in the system with 5 defenders. The tactics chosen by Slot did not help Liverpool. It does not fit the team and was a burden rather than a solution. The result and performance were disconcerting. Liverpool proved that with 5 defenders you have it not necessarily better for each other defensively. There was hardly any defending while there was so much to defend. The Reds will have a mountain to climb if they are to overturn the deficit against PSG next week, although Keith isn't at all confident about their chances. On paper, Liverpool can still straighten the 2-0 deficit at Anfield. However, all signals are on red, and it is highly unlikely that there will be a very different Liverpool on Tuesday than in Paris. For the second consecutive season, Slot is then knocked out by PSG. A year ago, Liverpool was still equal to the French, but there is no question of that this time. Luis Enrique has more quality at his disposal, and the magic of Anfield does not change that. Jamie Carragher worried about huge Liverpool game and gives Arne Slot verdict. Liverpool legend Jamie Carragher spoke at Aintree's Grand National Ladies' Day about Arne Slot's future and the Merseyside derby with the Reds taking on Fulham on Saturday. Jamie Carragher has delivered his assessment of Arne Slot's future at Liverpool ahead of the Merseyside derby. The Liverpool Echo caught up with the Reds legend on the second day of this year's Grand National Festival at Aintree. Despite clinching the Premier League title last season, the Reds head coach has faced mounting scrutiny from Liverpool supporters following a series of disappointing displays this campaign, leaving the club embroiled in a battle to secure Champions League qualification. Slot's players were unceremoniously dumped out of the FA Cup last weekend in a humiliating 4-0 thrashing at Manchester City. That was compounded by a comfortable 2-0 defeat in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final away at Paris Saint-Germain. Liverpool returns to Premier League action on Saturday at Anfield against Fulham before the second leg against PSG next Tuesday and the Merseyside derby at Hill Dickinson Stadium on Sunday. Slot declared he has the complete support of the Liverpool hierarchy. When the Isato approached Carragher at Ladies' Day and asked whether this represented the most pivotal week of his Liverpool tenure to date, the former LFC vice-captain responded, "Yes, from a Liverpool supporter's point of view, that's the way we look at it. Whether that's the way the ownership looks at that or not, I don't know. Obviously, you read media reports and you read between the lines, and it doesn't seem that's the case right now." But Liverpool have got some big games between now and the end of the season in the league. I think of Everton away and I think of Man United away. And if they don't go well, obviously that heaps the pressure on him. But listen, I don't really like saying that. He's a manager who's won the league for Liverpool, so I love him for that and I always will do. But it's high stakes, isn't it? And Liverpool have been a long way off where everybody expects to be this season. We know there's reasons for that as well. But the drop-off has been startling and really no one expected that. Carragher confessed he has little appetite for the prospect of this Liverpool side facing PSG once more, alongside a resurgent Everton next week. The Toffees are pushing for European qualification and take on fellow contenders Brentford on Saturday. When pressed on whether he was looking forward to the first derby at Everton's new ground, he responded, "Not at the moment, no." But listen, I think most Liverpudlians want the season to end really and just make sure we're in the Champions League for next season. There was a little bit of hope with maybe the cup competitions, but they look a little bit long gone. But you never know if they'll get an early goal at Anfield against PSG. They're a brilliant team and they've shown that against Liverpool the last couple of years. Everton, what they've done this season. Brentford are in a similar position as they are knocking on the door of the Champions League in European places. So it'll be interesting what happens there tomorrow. That's a big game, but if Everton were to win that and then go into the derby, who knows what could happen.